that morning, we knew they went out the night before.
So what happened was at 9:30 in the morning, I asked my wife to know where everybody is when I came back from shul, and where's Elisheva? She says, I didn't see her.
After Shacharis breakfast time, I get a call from Joel, and he says, do you know where Yisroel is?
And then what do you do when you have that pit in your stomach? I call Baruch Bear Bender.
Yeah.
So Baruch Bear. I asked her, I said, my daughter is, I don't know where my daughter is, and there was that accident.
Young couple, just engaged, killed when their car was hit and caught fire.
A newly engaged couple looking forward to spending the rest of their lives together. But today, friends and family filled the street in Far Rockaway, Queens for their funeral.
You had spoken by Levaya, and I remember hearing those words. You took Yisrael, now I want the Afikomen.
I want 10,000 shidduchim lives.
And during Shiva, a young lady, a classmate of my youngest daughter, she says she's going to start a website to track the 10,000 shidduchim. Everybody heard that, but who came forward? This young lady.
And the idea was to make the Kallah feel like a queen, which means what? That you focus on what the Kallah needs.
The Chiddush Tenke is to convince people you have an ability to read a shidduch. It doesn't have to be a professional shadchan.
Right.
It's the only thing that could bring me nechama. The chassan and kallah that I lost is to see a zillion more chassan and kallahs. A zillion more. Not 10,000. A zillion. You know what I mean? As many as we need.
The domain was taken, a zillion.
Yeah, baby.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Meaningful People podcast. So happy you are here listening to this episode with Rabbi Shaya Levin and Joel Kaplan. Obviously, these two together went through an unfathomable tragedy, losing both their daughter and their son, Elisheva Kaplan and Yisroel Levin, in a car accident when they were engaged. And we really we speak about who they were as their children, who they were as vibrant members of Kallah Yisrael, and the legacy that they leave behind. I do want to mention that this episode I was riding solo because Momo Bauman was under the weather on recording day, but we'll be back with him next week in the studio, God willing. I want to mention that this episode is sponsored by our friends at Alpert and Associates. So Yontif season is here, but soon it's going to be going bye-bye, and we're going to miss it. But you're going to look at your bank account after the storm passes and be like, wait a minute, I can't get through the rest of the year like this. I need to make some changes. I need to budget correctly. I need to make sure that my kids have what they need, my family has what they need. So the first phone call you need to make is this, 718-644-1594. And that is to Moshe Alpert. Or you can email him at alpertmoshe@gmail.com. Financial advice, budgeting, life planning, stuff like that you need to take care of. You go to Moshe Alpert. He is waiting for your phone call, free consultation. Just tell him that you're calling from Meaningful People Podcast. And of course, a big thank you to our friends at Town Appliance. Everything's in the name. What is Town Appliance? Who are they? What do they stand for? Well, just think of the name. Do you live in a town? I think everyone lives in a town. Do you need appliances? Everyone needs appliances. They are the store when it comes to appliances. There's nobody else. It's just them. Ever since 1979, they've been the go-to place. New construction, renovations, just frankly need new appliances, whether it's dishwasher, refrigerator, oven, whatever it is, you go to Town Appliance. They have amazing locations. They have Baltimore, Lakewood, 5 towns, but they deliver for free anywhere nationwide. Yes, you can easily message them on WhatsApp by hitting the link in the description of the show notes of this episode. They understand the needs of the Jewish community, so they will get you and what you need. So make sure to reach out to Town Appliance. You can head to townappliance.com or, of course, message them on WhatsApp. I do want to mention that Daily Giving is doing this amazing campaign right now, getting new daily givers. As you know, Meaningful Minute is one of the beneficiary organizations of Daily Giving. So I said that whoever becomes a new daily giver, part of our team, is going to be mentioned on this episode. So a big thank you to our friend Eli Rizel, Aviva Goodman, Zalman and Racheli Talevsky, Shayna E., Jacob Ben Yair, Shmuel and Esther Shayowitz, and Leah Beagleyes. And thank you so much for being the Daily Givers of the week. And of course, if you are not a giver yet, please go to dailygiving.org. It's $1 a day given out to amazing, amazing organizations every single day. You'll be one of 15,000 plus people that are giving $1 every single day. And that is at dailygiving.org. Hope you really, really gain a lot from this episode of the Meaningful People podcast. Enjoy. You are listening to the Meaningful People podcast.
The podcast featuring our nation's most impactful, influential,
And meaningful people.
Appreciate you guys coming, for real. I don't know if you've...
We appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. I don't know if you've ever done this before, together on a program. You have?
Not together, no. But I did one with your father.
Yeah, but I think there's a special power in having you guys together.
Yeah, we
and
wanted to be together.
Discussing this this story, and I think this time of year especially, everyone does a lot of reflecting, you know? So it's important that we're having this conversation. And I want to start off individually, if I guess we could start with Rabbi Levin. If you could tell me a little bit about, briefly about your son, Yisroel.
It says, Klum av meir al benai, as I'll say. A father can't testify to his son. And I found that to be very true, in life, even when we sat by family simchas. I said, I don't know, it's because it's my nature, but maybe it really is because of Chazal say, to talk about the attributes. But I dafka brought in a book, Lev Yisroel, that was put together and compiled by his chaverim. I brought a copy for you and a copy for Momo too.
Thank you. We'll make sure to get to him, obviously.
And that really, has his friends and his rabbeim talking about him. He had a tremendous, it's called Lev Yisroel, he had a tremendously good heart. He was so friendly and warm and outgoing. And this was just in his personality. And Baruch Hashem, his personality was channeled into Torah and to learning and to doing chesed. Again, I find it very hard personally to talk about him. Maybe I'll let his father-in-law talk about his
For a second, I was thinking about maybe I should have Joel tell me a little about Yisroel and you tell me about Elisheva.
Yeah, you know what? I'm sure it will come out as we talk because it is very... We both saw the tremendous milas that they both had, and that's why it was such a good shidduch.
Yeah. No, I totally hear that. And listen, I have a lot of friends that knew Yisroel, a lot of close friends. And Rabbi Kaplan, if you could tell me just a little bit about Elisheva, your daughter.
She had a simchas achayim that Yisroel had also. That was what made them a perfect couple. They always wanted to make people happy. They themselves were always upbeat, and that's the way they conducted themselves. They're always looking to give compliments. There was no, wise guyish about either one of them. Everyone wanted to be around them. In fact, when we were sitting Shiva, her boss came and said that he noticed that when she walked into a room, and she worked with a variety of different backgrounds, that whatever the conversation was, and sometimes maybe it may have not been so appropriate, they automatically would stop. Not because she said anything, but just they felt that it would be inappropriate to have that kind of discussion when she was there. So that meant a lot to us. Yeah, they knew each other.
Yeah, my next question obviously was gonna be about how the shidduch came to be.
So let me just tell you, to give a little background of transparency. We are related.
Nice. That's good transparency.
We go back a long way before the shidduch. Meaning, Joel's wife Leah's mother's brother, Alav Hashalom, was married to my mother's sister. So we shared a common aunt and uncle.
Wow. Okay.
So our families...
You're familiar.
We knew each other going back... When did you come into the family? When did you get married?
43 years ago this week.
Okay.
See, I remembered, dear.
And right. And so we knew of each other way back. We actually really began to have a relationship in 1984.
We worked together.
And I'm reminiscing, Joel, so I have to remember this. I have to remind ourselves of the story, and then you'll agree with the story. So Joel reached out to me. He heard I left Kallah. I'm looking for a job, and I had a real estate salesperson's license, and they were just starting up PRG in Borough Park, Shmuel Lefkowitz and Joel. And he offered me a job as a salesman, and I was very excited about it. And we made up. This was in the summer, we made up that like if the Tisha B'Av, I'll come in and start working. I never bothered, I don't think at the time, mentioning to Joel that my wife was expecting a baby at that time, and things might get delayed a little bit because the thought never crossed my mind.
Right.
Meanwhile, that was the famous world-class singer Yisroel Levin. He came on the scene.
Oh, beautiful.
But meanwhile, it never occurred to me, I was a yeshivish guy, and I thought, everybody osmosis knows everything going on in the world. So for sure, Joel heard I had it, and he understands why I'm not showing up. Remember this time? And like a couple of days, finally I rolled in over there, and Joel was fit to be tied. He must have got a lot of flack for Shmuel.
And what is going on?
Like, this is the guy you vouched for, and you told me we should hire him, and the guy, you don't hear from him. He's off the face of the earth, and now all of a sudden, Baruch haba. It taught me a big lesson in Achrayus.
Yeah.
It really, that experience was worth a lot. Joel was very, really, when I think about it, retroactively, he was very nice about it. But, it taught me a big lesson in Achrayus.
He was a great salesman. Worth it.
So that you guys are, your families are familiar with each other.
Yeah.
That meant I suppose that Yisroel was familiar with the Kaplans, and he may have been in the house.
So we were in the same bungalow colony for 20 years.
Yeah.
Or more. So all the kids knew each other, Yisroel and Elisheva, when they were little kids. And obviously, they didn't speak to each other because when you got older, that wasn't the way to do it. But they obviously had a liking for each other. And then, when it came down to shidduchim, so Yisroel wanted to go out with Elisheva, and Elisheva was masking to go out. And
were any of you surprised of that?
No,
of that proposition?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not
at all. It was a natural fit.
Yeah.
The families, we knew each other so well.
It's just it's so unusual for any shidduch to be so simple. They say shidduchim is like splitting the Kriyas Yam Suf.
So Yisroel had become my ben bias by a lot of my kids, and I had a couple in Israel, and when he was in Israel, he was by them, and then he was.
Well, first Kaplan, he was with Mosey.
Right. Mosey Kaplan,
and
the famous Mosey.
When he came for the first date, Mosey lives around the corner. Mm-hmm. He went to Mosey to change. So that tells you. So also, when people hear about people got engaged and then 10 days later they were killed. So people say, well, they went out 4 times, 5 times. They didn't know each other before, and they went out 5 times. They got engaged, and it's a terrible tragedy that 10 days later they were killed. But here you're going back years and years, and they knew each other. In fact, Elisheva said when she came up on the first date, she said, I don't know. Usually on a first date, you talk about your family. They knew everything about each other's families. So, what was there to talk about?
Down to the tachlis.
Yeah. So they did.
How many dates did they go on before the decision was made?
4.
About 4 days.
I think it was 4 dates.
You're 4, contemplating that's a lot. It's
what?
No, 4.
I just tried to remember, but
There's 4 dates that I remember, and I think after the second or third, they both knew.
They're like, I think. It makes sense.
I tell you, a lot of miracles happened. They wanted to get engaged. Yisroel wanted to get engaged before Pesach.
Yeah.
So my wife told him the last possible day it could do it, because it'll be Chametz stick l'chaim. It would be a Shabbos Gadol at night. If I remember.
Matzi Shabbos.
Shabbos Gadol. And that's what happened. So they were engaged. Otherwise, there would have been a l'chaim after Yantiv, and who knows. So they were engaged, Baruch Hashem, before, which fulfilled his goal.
Yeah. And I know and I really commend both of you for being vulnerable and coming here to talk about this. And I know the next part really isn't it's not easy to talk about anyone's kid, but especially your own. It's a tragedy that was heard all around the world,
right?
Whether someone knew them or didn't know them. If you can take me through the events, either one of you, both of you, what took place on that day? I believe it was in April.
Yeah.
On that day, that morning in April, leading up to the realization of what happened. What was that like?
I really let Joel take the lead because he's more accurate than I am. My memory things get a little jumbled. I just know from my perspective that morning, we knew they went out the night before. I knew that, they went out the night before, and I know Yisroel sleeps in Far Rockaway by a chaver around the corner, I think.
And Yisroel was also he was in Yeshiva Darchei Torah. So,
yeah, but this was Bein Hazmanim, but
Right.
so he would go off on a date. He would sleep over there, and in the morning, like after Shacharis breakfast time, I get a call from Joel, and he says, "Do you know where Yisroel is?" And he couched it in such a way like, not the, just
He
curious.
did it nicely.
Yeah.
Try not to be alarming.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And by me, I'm a very happy-go-lucky person, especially, your son's getting, engaged and, and I always like to try to put the most positive spin on situations. Your mind doesn't want to go to a bad place.
Right.
So I jokingly said, I don't know. I thought he was in Far Rockaway. But Joel, when you find out, let me know.
Yeah. And
So what happened was that Yisroel and Elisheva went to Monsey to visit Shaya's son and
my parents who were
Right.
alive at that time. They were living by my sister in Monsey, and Yisroel was very excited and proud to take his Kallah up to introduce him to his elderly grandparents, give them nachas. And they lived with my sister and her husband and the thing, and they went and they schmoozed over there, and it was very beautiful. And the crazy thing was, I was in Monsey that day. I had visited my parents, and Yisroel and Elisheva were running late.
yeah.
I had thought we were going to meet them. I would meet them over there, hang around, and meet them with my parents, and I would shep nachas, you know? But seeing as it started that they were setting out late, I made a cheshbon. I said, you know what? I wanted to get back to New York. I had a night seder. I wanted to get back. And I said, I'll have to forgo this, So I said, I'm sorry, so I can't wait, so I'm going back. Had I waited, I would have seen them at least the last time,
Yeah.
Then from there, they went to my son Yaakov and Chavi in Chestnut Ridge.
So
And then, all the nephews and nieces got to see the Kallah. They were very excited, of course. The pictures, they're in the house. And
that morning, I came back from shul and I asked my wife,
wait, before we go to shul, let's talk about the last Ma'ariv.
Yeah.
It was amazing. It was amazing.
Where was the last Ma'ariv?
In
Shiner Shul.
In Shiner.
18 Shea. Yisroel came in there, the way we hear the story. Yisroel came in there, and they had just started Baruch Hu.
He just missed Baruch Hu.
What do most people do? You go along with it, and you catch a Baruch Hu
take it on
at
the
the end.
chin.
You catch a Baruch Hu at the end. And he absolutely no. He wants to wait to start from the whole davening. He wants to daven the whole daven b'shleimus from Baruch Hu through the end like that. And she was waiting out in the car, and Elisheva, and he davened that whole Ma'ariv. And later on, I felt so good about that. I said, nobody knows when they're leaving the world.
Yeah.
But you come up there, what were you doing when you left the world? What the last mitzvah?
Yeah.
What was your last mitzvah that you did? I mean, he had a lot of last mitzvahs.
Yeah.
Him and Elisheva, that they went to visit elderly grandparents, give them nachas. That's the joy that grandparents live for.
Yeah.
Especially at the time Yechas and Kallah. He went to his brother and sister and then his aunt and uncle, and then he went to daven Ma'ariv with a minyan and b'shleimus, with Baruch Hu through the end.
And then they made their way back.
So
from
they
Monsey,
they started to make their way. Yeah, they made their way back. So what happened was at 9:30 in the morning, I asked my wife to know where everybody is when I came back from shul, and this one was in shul. This one was still, the girls were still sleeping. I said, "Where's Elisheva?" She says, I didn't see her. So they went to check her room, and her bed was made like she hadn't slept there. I said, "Okay, maybe she went to work. It was Chol Hamoed, but maybe she." So we called her office phone, and it went to voicemail. We called her cell phone. It went to voicemail. And a little earlier that day, one of my nephew texted everybody that there was a big accident on Burnside and Rockaway Turnpike, and it's closed off, and it's a lot of backup traffic, so avoid the scene. So in the back of my mind, she didn't pick up on either those phones. I got that funny pit in my stomach.
Yeah.
And then what do you do when you have that pit in your stomach? I call Baruch Bear Bender.
Yeah.
So Baruch Bear, I asked him, I said, I don't know where my daughter is, and there was that accident. Do you know anything about the accident? So he said, let me call you back. And he called me back and said that Hatzalah said that they did not transport anybody to the hospital. And
did you take that to mean something?
No, I took that to mean that they weren't involved. Okay. I didn't go to the next step and say, because they didn't say, well, there were 2 fatalities. They didn't say that. They just said they didn't transport anybody. And then then his friends called and said, have you seen Yisroel? He was supposed to sleep around the corner by Gelfand. And they were supposed to go to Six Flags, the guys.
Yeah.
And I said, no. And they said, when was the last time you heard from Yisroel? So they said that he texted it at about 1:30 the night before, that they were heading back on the Palisades and it was foggy. So I said to my wife, what are we going to do here? Let's go to the Palisades. Hopefully they were in an accident and they're in the ditch somewhere, and they didn't find them yet. The car was disabled. So we drove up to the Palisades, and we went into the Palisades police, and Lieutenant Cohen, we told him what happened. So he had his theory, but then he started to see where we found out where they were. There was no accidents on the Palisades.
That ride though with you and your wife in the car on the way there, silent one.
It was a silent one. It was like a hishtadlus one.
Did you deep down?
We didn't default to anything worse than, and meanwhile back at the ranch at my house, my kids were gathering because they were all off, and they started to try to track them down. How did they try to track them down? They called hospitals.
Yeah.
And they called jails. They called whatever they could think of. They split up to see if that's why they weren't being responding. And then on the way back, we when we were there, they told us that his car, the Easy Pass, pinged by the either RFK bridge much closer to here.
Yeah, so you figured
that we knew
turn around.
So we knew
They
we
had
would
made
turn
it
around.
into the
Right.
city.
So we were coming back, and I called Baruch Bear again. I said he was in Pennsylvania.
Who Baruch Bear was?
With family. Chol Hamoed.
Yeah.
And he realized, because he started making phone calls, that he needed to come back. Something was unfolding.
Something major.
So he came with lights and sirens. New Jersey police made it possible for him to go lights and sirens on the Garden State Parkway. And then he came over to New York. And on the way back, I called Baruch Bear and I said, we don't know where they are. Could you check on that? Could you check on that accident? So he said, when do you think you'll be back? So I said in about an hour. He said, I called the police commissioner, and he did, Nassau Police Commissioner, and he said, I should call him back in an hour. He'll find out what's going on. And then I turned to my wife and I said, it doesn't take the Nassau Police Commissioner an hour to find out what happened in this accident.
Right.
I said, Baruch Bear is not telling us everything. And I understood why.
Yeah.
And that was sort of when it hit. Little do we know, behind the scenes, Baruch Bear and was calling my son-in-law to get the dental records. He didn't want to ask us. And
as that was the
only way to
identifying.
because that was they were killed by the first impact But then their car spun around and was facing the wrong way on incoming traffic. But they had been killed already, and the car was immobilized. And the second of the speeding drivers was going that direction, as was the original driver, but then he lost control and went into their lane of traffic. And when that car hit them, then it burst into flames, and therefore they had to be identified by the dental records, which was a story in itself that I forgot if whether the orthodontist or the dentist was away for Chol Hamoed, and Baruch Bear was able to get the orthodontist or the dentist, I apologize, to let the other one into his office.
Wow.
They're on the same block, and to show and guided him in how to find the dental records so that they could identify the. And I think the same thing was happening on the other side.
Was that so? All the while that this is going on for Joel, what was going on your side of things?
So my son Shmuel David called up, and he's very diplomatic and good, and he's gently probing us to see if we're aware that this might not turn out so good.
Did he at that point know something?
He was in touch with Zvi Gluck.
Okay.
And he was in Lakewood by his in-laws, and he started to comment. I, being me, I'm sitting on the couch, I'm saying to Hillam, and I just have this menucha dika feeling, like I'm not going
Nervous,
crazy or worried. It's because I know myself in my mind, I won't let my mind go there to that worst possible thing. All the questions, it doesn't make sense. Where there was a couple disappeared, it's already 11 o'clock, it's already 12 o'clock. Like,
right.
as I also thought, like, all right, if Chas v'Shalom there's an accident, but it's going to work out okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to end up okay.
There's also perhaps a havamina that accident happened, what, at 3 a.m.? Happened in the wee hours of the morning, and it's already 12.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I wasn't aware, though, at the time. He had the piece of knowledge, which
about
made
the
it worse.
accident.
I was not aware of that accident.
So it's you. It's way more just
Because the version I heard was just like there was some accident over there, but it was Goyim or was someone else. You know, okay, eliminate that possibility. So it doesn't cross your mind that it could be your child and your daughter-in-law there. But I felt later on that the reason I was so menucha saying to Tehillim was that they're already up in Gan Eden. It's over. Mm-hmm. It's over. Mm-hmm. They're not suffering. They're not, For you, what was, I guess, the confirmation, the moment of realization of what happened? I know Baruch Bar had gone to you, and we'll talk about that. But for you, you were in Brooklyn at that time? Yeah. So what happened was that it hit a certain point. I just said to Leva, I said, you know what? Let's go drive out to Far Rockaway. We'll be with the Kaplans. Let's go over there. We're going to be together. We're going to find, And we went out to the car, and as I'm going out, or I might have went out a minute or two to get the car before my wife, and that's when the Hatzalah people, the people who deal with this type of stuff, came up to the house. And I said, "Oh, this is not good. This is not good. They're coming." And so I got out of the car, and I came back in the house. And they said, "Wait, a grief counselor's coming." Oh, this is just what I want to hear.
Yeah,
it's like, so I knew already, that it was over. It was, yeah.
And for you, Joel, back in Farakwe, Baruch Bar was heading your way.
Baruch was heading our way, or was close by, and when he got the word from the detectives, they would Yisroel. We didn't recognize that we had things that led us away from the fact that it's them, because he had borrowed his chavrusa had lent him his car because the chavrusa was going to Minneapolis for Yom Tov, and we knew I think the car was black, or not black. And we saw the footage. My kids saw the footage, and it was a different color. So, okay, so that's good. What happened was in the fire, it burned.
It peeled off the paint.
It peeled off the paint.
Right.
So, but those are the things that veered us off from what we didn't want to
But you didn't want to believe, yeah.
You didn't want to believe, or you wanted to hold out hope. But finally, Baruch Bey, after the detectives spoke and the medical examiner, the dental records, matched. So he called Rabbi and Rebbetzin Brown and Zeb Brown, Dr. Zeb Brown.
He's a psychologist,
psychologist. And they all had whatever plans they had for that day. He told them, I need you. And they headed over to the house. So we got there a few minutes maybe before they came from the Palisades. And when they walked in, maybe they didn't say anything. You're not supposed to, volunteer bad information if you don't have to. But one of my daughters said, confirmed? Yeah. Both of them? Yeah. And that was that. A lot of chasodim happened to us, where to have the kfura, we'd have the levaya. Rabbi Yaakov Bender offered Darche because Yisroel was a Talmud in Darche. I'm active in Darche, and they were engaged. So we had a joint levaya, so to speak. And then as far as the kfura was concerned, there was a discussion about it. And
we had an extra kever in Beit Shemesh in our family plot. And let me just, we had lost Ari 2 years prior.
You're another son of yours.
Right. And, Chazal say a lashon says, Niba ve'eni yadea ma niba. Sometimes you could say Nevuah, you're not even aware you're saying Nevuah. 2 months before the Patira of Yisroel was Ari's yard site. And some of my children went to Eretz Yisrael, and Yisroel was learning there that year. He came back right after Purim, but the yard site was in Shvat. And when they were at the Beis Olam on the day of the yard site, Yisroel was very attached to Ari. He would go visit his kever all the time. And famous picture of him hugging the kever, the maseva, and davening. And he turned to my oldest son, Shmuel David, and he says, I want to be buried next to Ari.
Wow.
So do we have any more kfarim over there? So Shmuel David says, I don't know, it's mommy. She takes care of that. She was handling with all that. You have to speak to mommy, find out. He says, I want to be buried next to Ari. Can you imagine that?
No.
It's astounding. It's astounding. So besides the extra kever that there was, we had another one also. So when the accident happened, Liba called up Leah and says, look, I just want to let you know, if you're interested, we could arrange it. They'll have, farm next to each other. If you're interested. But
the Rabbanim encouraged us to bury her here right away, and there was no way we couldn't bury either one of them before Pesach, before the second days. So Elisheva was buried the next day, and Levi was the next day, and Elisheva was buried right then, and next week. Levins went to Yisroel to bury Yisroel.
It was Matzah Shabbos that year. So.
That really adds a different element into the mourning, because you two, your families are going through this together. Your kids are, intertwined in this, and all of a sudden the shiva and the whole mourning process is starting on different clocks.
Yeah.
Did that complicate things for you two emotionally?
Actually, we were able to go. Menachem Avol them.
Yes, they came the last Friday.
Wow.
And to me, which was so meaningful. It was,
that was, and then all of Kallah Yisroel came to...
Yeah. We'll be right back to this episode of the Meaningful People podcast, but first, a word from our friends at Collars & Co. Well, a word from our friends at Collars & Co., or a word from me about Collars & Co., because they are the best shirt company in the world. You want to make sure you look good and feel good, you need to be repping Collars & Co. It's simple. Head to collarsandco.com, use promo code MEANINGFUL for 15% off your order. You will get the shirt in the mail. I can't tell you how many people I bumped into in the street and they said, hey, Collars & Co. How many people I saw in Shul and Rosh Hashanah wearing Collars & Co.? It's amazing. Revolution, guys. You know what? It's time that we feel good and look good at the same time. You do not have to sacrifice anything when you go to collarsandco.com. You get that firm collar. That's the patent right there. Like, that's what they have that's so amazing. You know, some shirts have like a floppy collar. It's like, what is this? This is like an American flag. No. They have a firm collar and a soft shirt. You'll feel good. You'll look amazing. And everyone will know that you shopped at collarsandco.com. Use promo code MEANINGFUL for 15% off your order at collarsandco.com. Now back to this episode.
I want to, obviously anytime news like that is being told to you, it's awful. It's hard to even hear. For me sitting here, it's hard to hear. Could you take me through those emotions, finding out, again, both of them, your daughter, your son, your future son-in-law, both amazing people, and also the realization that it happened in an accident that was very...
It wasn't an accident.
It wasn't an accident. No. It was murder.
No, it was murder, exactly. And that's about the trial. There was, as you know, there was a trial. Actually, now is the time of the trial. Mm-hmm. During the trial, we went and so many... Sorry.
It's okay.
So many friends and people we didn't know came to the trial just to sit with us. It was the trial of Ramel Watkins, who was the one who the other person who actually started the fire, but that was after they were already probably killed. She pled guilty, so the trial was only of Ramel Watkins, and Kallah Yisroel came to sit with us. You can't talk. You just have to sit there. The presence was just to sit there. And during the trial, my son Meir and his wife Sheila had their first daughter, and they named her Elisheva Basel Chama. So that was what happened during the trial. But I remember when we found out, remember Brown said that, shook his head. I said Hashem Nasan, Hashem Lakach, Hishem Hashem Avarach, because I felt it's God's plan,
right? And
I meant it. And if you second guess God, it means that you're God. You think you're God. You're not. You don't understand it all the time, and it hurts. And the other thing about when you're sitting shiva or right afterwards, people want to fix it.
Yeah,
they want to make you happy, and they're uncomfortable. And as time goes on, they will say things like, they'll tell you a vart, and then they'll say, after a while, you have to come out of it, and you have to. And I think we came out of it pretty quickly, actually. My intent was to go back into the regular routine of life, and then whatever happened afterwards, we could talk about as far as how we try to memorialize them in a real way. But I think that if it was a message that I wanted to give to people who were going, is that to Menachem Avel or seeing the person, don't try to fix it. They have to come out of it in their own way, and they will never come out of it completely. We just have to live with it in a different way. And Shaya and I, and my wife and I, we now go whenever we hear someone lost a child suddenly. We go to Menachem Avel, and it provides a lot of chizuk for them, because they see that we're not in a fetal position.
Right.
We're smiling, and they ask us questions.
I was thinking of the terminology everyone talks about. Is there life after death? They mean in the sense of Tchias HaMesim. Is there life after death? From our perspective, there's life after death. Hashem wants you to live.
Yeah.
He doesn't want you to stay down. That's not the point. That's not. Kadosh Baruch Hu loves us. Like Joel said, we don't understand the cheshbon, and we're not supposed to understand the cheshbon. That's a Kadosh Baruch Hu's cheshbon. But one thing we do know is that we're supposed to grow from it. When we go to Shiva, and we try, hopefully we should never have to do it anymore, to go visit, I tell people that if you remember, there was Rahm Emanuel at that time was working for the chief of staff. I think it was for Obama. And right when Obama came into office, there was this terrible crisis of an oil leak somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. And and they were on his case. Everyone was on his case, and like, no, what are you doing to fix the problem? What are you doing to fix it? It's a crisis, everything. And Rahm Emanuel dropped that phrase over there: a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. And it wasn't his chiddush. If you Google it, you'll find out who originally said it, but he applied in that, and that always stuck in my mind. And it always stuck in my mind. And I said, when it comes to a davar ruchni like this also, where you suffer the most terrible, devastating loss you can suffer, the loss of a child, a crisis is a terrible thing to waste. Hashem, Gemara's Lashon, Lefi Gamla Shichna, according to the camel is the load. Hashem wouldn't have done it if you couldn't deal with it. And number two, really, this is an opportunity to grow. I called it, I was telling someone, I said, I looked at it as it's either a make it or break it situations. Nebuch, you take a see these type of sorrows where you look at a person's eye, if the thing like that happens, you see life went out of them. And it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. And I understand it 1,000,000%. Everyone, he understands that. But Misad Sheni, I view it as an opportunity to grow.
And it's incredible that you guys do that. My sister Malki, she lost her husband suddenly a couple of years ago, and she does the same thing anytime in the community someone loses a spouse. I recently went with her I live in Muncie now, and there was someone who lost their husband suddenly, and she went, and this wife
makes all the difference.
She couldn't leave her room, and my sister went and just sat with her in her room. And sometimes you just need to see somebody else that went through this and is standing and is dressed.
That itself is the chizik that if like the natural thought at a time of such devastating loss is like, how can life go on?
Right.
How am I going to live and go the rest of my life like this? It's impossible. You can't do it.
That's the question that a lot of them, ask us: does it get better? So we sort of skirt the answer in a way. It gets better, more bearable, but it's never the same.
It's different. You had spoken by Levaya, and I remember listening to it. Chol Hamoed Pesach. I was away for Pesach, and I remember hearing those words that Hashem, you took, I believe the words you said is, you took the Afikomen, you took Yisroel. Now I want the Afikomen. I want 10,000 shidduchim and Kallah Yisrael. Take me through, those moments of leading up to, was it something you were thinking about? And then,
When that day, the day before, when we found out about Yisroel and Elisheva, so Rav Yankel Bender called up on the phone. We're talking, we're planning out the Levaya, and he broke the news to me. He dropped a line so I should clearly understand what the situation was. He says, we had to identify them by the dental records, so I should understand the full extent of what happened and transpired over here. Not to expect to see a guf shalem. And I said, yes, it would be very meaningful to have the Levaya in Darchei, a joint Levaya. Besides, then we're going to have a separate Levaya when we go to Eretz Yisrael to Beit Shemesh. And I remember at some point that day laying down in my bed, just thinking, trying to hide from reality, I guess. And to bring out the point I'm going to say now, I just want to diverge a little second. We go to Eretz Yisrael every summer for 3 weeks, primarily to visit the boys as much as possible, to go to Beit Shemesh, to the Beit Salem, because we're in the States the whole year. This is our opportunity to go. But Lamaisa, when you come back from Eretz Yisrael, it's terribly depressing, me personally. It's such a letdown. I was such a ruchnistic high over there with all the matanas that Hashem gave us that in Eretz Yisrael. And you come back. So we came back on a Tuesday morning, 5:30 in the morning. We landed. We entered the house. I dropped off my stuff. I said, Leva, I got to go down to Shachas. I'm going to the shul by Daven Rav Lezer Ginsburg in Aguda. And I'm depressed a little bit, I'm massively depressed, but it's a letdown. This could be my first tefillah in America, on American soil, after I've been by the Kaisel and been, Makamis Kedoshim. I come into the shul, and what do I see? The Aron HaKodesh was redone during the 3 weeks when I was in Israel, Jerusalem stone. I said, wow, I can't believe it gave me such a chiyas. I said, wow.
Someone's winking at you.
I'm telling you, thank you, Hashem. Yeah. So when I'm here, what's the point? So after davening, Shaya, you doing the we're talking Rav Lezer. So I asked someone, I said, whose idea was it, the Jerusalem stone? They said, the Rav Lezer. So I said to her, I asked Rav Lezer, I said, how did you get the idea to do Jerusalem stone? He says, HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it in my head. And not a straight answer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu put it in my head. That's what I wanted. It's gorgeous. It's the same thing by me. I understood in my subconscious that this was a chassan Kallah, beginning life. Yisroel expressed to my wife when as he was becoming a chassan, he says, Ma, you should know, he's a very mature boy for 21 years old.
Yeah.
As he said, Ma, I don't take it for granted. I know this is a chesed from Hashem that I found my shidduch so quickly. And it was very meaningful to him. He didn't take it for granted. He was makatayv to Kadosh Baruch Hu for that chesed. And that was most probably playing a role in my subconscious. I said, if Kadosh Baruch Hu takes away a chassan Kallah like this, a young couple, didn't get a chance to stand under chuppah, I said, now's the time to leverage a bakasha by Kadosh Baruch Hu. For all the singles, well, like I said, Levaya, who are plotting to find a shidduch. And like I knew from, my daughter Iti was concurrently a Kallah. And that's why we couldn't go to Ari's yard site, because Iti was becoming a Kallah. We couldn't just pick ourselves up and leave. But I had just been through a parsha. Iti is a Sadekis. She let her younger sister go in front of her. 2 years she had to wait afterwards, but she was, I get a chizik from my daughter Iti. She doesn't want to speak to Levaya. She is so upbeat, and she would always talk so, right? What? Yeah. And she would talk so positively all the time. When we need to buy a KitchenAid, so when I get married, I'll have a KitchenAid. And we need to buy, linen. She stored up stuff. She was all geared up. She had such betachon in Hashem that she is going to get married. And Hashem says, of course. And you're going to get a great guy. You're going to get a guy you're so happy with. That's going to be so sugapas, Kanei Nahara. And kachave. So I diverged. Where was I going?
The idea of the 10,000.
So the 10K, right. It hurts me. It hurts me a lot. There's so many singles who need a Yeshua. And the only one who can help is Borei Olam.
Yeah.
We, little menshelach, we can make a shtadlis. And I love it because there's so many different groups now who are starting different projects great, that's exactly what I want. Yeah. We need an army of Klal Yisrael to work on making shidduchim, to step up to the plate, and to help our brothers, our sisters, our nephews, our nieces, our grandchildren, our grandsons, our granddaughters, our uncles, our aunts, wherever you turn. And it's so important for the singles to know that Klal Yisrael cares for them.
So that was really the thinking for you, was a young couple taken so suddenly.
They were like, just to me, they represented all the chassan Kallahs and potential chassan Kallahs and Klal Yisrael who want to go to the chuppah, who it's not coming easy like that, like it was for them. And I just felt that
to have the presence of mind to come up with that great vart and under those circumstances.
Right.
That was so great that Ellie Levin made it into a song.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And what a great song, you know, that is. What an inspiring song it is.
It was. It was a year later. 8 and more than a year later.
Yeah.
It was the year because it was COVID-19 had just come out, and my parents. No, COVID was. My parents were nifted in COVID in 20, Pesach of 20. 2 years. And the next year, I'm still in Shiva, and Ellie made the song right about before Pesach, a few days before, and I knew everyone was messaging me. I can't listen. I'm an overload. I'm plus. I want to hear the song. I can't wait. I can't wait another month. That's ready Sphera. I'm into Sphera. But he didn't even give me a heads up anything.
He just did it.
But I called up. I told him he worked with Matti Ilowitz on it. I called up Matti Ilowitz. I thanked him. I said, I want to tell you something. If Klal Yisrael loves that song so much, then HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves that song.
Yeah.
And HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves that song. It was so...
Yeah.
And the part you're referring to is about, the Afikoman.
Yeah.
And you very, strongly stated by the Levaya that 10,000 shidduchim. 10,000 shidduchim. And you started a organization, a campaign.
So actually, to be accurate, what happened was, I was Mavakish by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Please send down 10,000 shidduchim. I said 10,000 for the boys and 10,000 for the girls.
20,000. Yeah.
But I called it 10,000, and people heard that. And during Shiva, a young lady, a classmate of my youngest daughter, who made my youngest daughter shidduch. She has a single girl, made my daughter shidduch. That was so on. And my daughter came over to me, raising, and says, my friend who made my shidduch, she says she's going to start a website to track the 10,000 shidduchim. I go, wow.
So you had no intention of even really...
No, I was just Mavakish B'Kodesh Baruch Hu. But the Gemara, the Pasuk says, Vayishma Yisrael. Everybody heard about Matan Torah. Who came forward? One Yisroel.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody heard that. But who came forward? This young lady. And she said, just going to start this. And she pulled in a close friend of hers. And in the first week, right away, 100, over 100, 175, I don't even remember the number anymore, suggestions start to come in. It was just remarkable. And it took on a life of its own. And people identify so strongly with 10K Bata Yisrael.
Yeah.
Because the story behind it.
They say they're reading it because of...
How many people, if you go on the website, we have a tab called 10K Stories. And I tell them, try to ask the people who are making the shidduchim, what motivated you? What inspired? Did you see some siyata d'shmaya in it? And you got to hear the stories. It's remarkable. It is absolutely remarkable. But what's unique about it is it's a tremendous team. Everyone belongs to this 10K B'Yisrael team. We're doing it l'shem shamayim. We want to bring simcha to Klal Yisrael. We want to do our hishtadlus, to show the singles, to show the parents of the singles. We care. You're not invisible. We're cognizant that you're suffering, that you get up every day and you face the world, waiting for the shidduch to come along. And we're going to do what we can do. We're going to try to inspire, motivate, influence people. And the ikr thing, people get confused with, think it's, especially older people. Oh, it's a match site, No, I said, no. It's a site to make people like you, myself, everybody think, inspires, focus, think of shidduchim. If you have your heart in the right place, and you have you can feel in the right place, take some time. You're going into shul, you're seeing the singles. You're going shopping, you're seeing the singles. Wherever you go, you're seeing them. The chiddush of 10K is to convince people you have an ability to read a shidduch. It doesn't have to be a professional shadchan.
Right.
And if you feel mamish you can't do it, because let's be honest, not everyone can, but take the idea and give it over to a shadchan and make it happen.
Yeah.
Make it happen. And it works. It mamish works.
Really
people
is.
are so astounded and they see that. It's changing the mind of Klal Yisrael that we all have an achrayas to the singles. And number two, I can do something about it. Yesh biyadi lasos. I can do something about it if I just have the desire and the cheshik to do it. But the main thing is, I want to encourage everybody to come visit the 10K Bat Yisrael website. Because when you visit the website and you click on the tab and you read the stories, you see the three categories of the numbers. How many suggestions were made? I think it's close to 24,000 as we sit here now. How many first dates? Over 3,500. How many actually shidduchim resulted in? 282.
It's incredible.
It's basically averaging a shidduch a week. So we're seeing tremendous siyata d'shmaya from that. And it's because some young lady acted on this bakasha I made.
All the while, you had come up with the idea of Kaplan and Elisheva to create something for your daughter. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
So during the first week, we were after Shiva. We were thinking about what could we do to continue her Simchas HaChaim. That was really, and one of our friends and neighbors, Eliza Safir, was the mother of one of Eli's friends, and Eli's friends sort of brainstormed and figured the niche that was sort of unfilled in the land of the Kallah. And the idea was to make the Kallah feel like a queen, which means what? That you focus on what the Kallah needs. A lot of times, rightfully so, you're making a chasana, pay all the different vendors, rightfully so, the caterer and the band and whatever else. But sometimes the Kallah's own needs sometimes are not always fulfilled. So they came up with the idea of $500 towards a sheitel, which is often the difference between a sheitel and the sheitel that the Kallah wants, and that makes all the difference for the Kallah. And the second thing is $500 towards Sheva Brachas outfits, so that the Kallah feels like a queen from beginning to end. And that's what we do. We it doesn't have to be a poor person at all. A lot of people are making it like with it, but when you have to make a wedding, all of a sudden you're talking about big numbers, and it becomes a challenge. And the challenge sometimes means that the Kallah doesn't get these things that make her feel like a queen. So that's what we do, and it's limited to that. And the community has been tremendously generous. What we did was we made videos of the whole event and what we do, and music video, and we welcome people to go to simchaselisheva.com and view the video and donate. To this date, we've helped almost 700 Kallahs over the last 5 years.
Remarkable.
Yeah, and my wife runs it, and it gives all of us a lot of chizuk. And I know the Kallahs get a lot of chizuk. They're just you could when they write the thank yous, you could feel the simcha coming through. And another thing I want to say about chizuk is, I think there's this siddur. When right after, as you said before, the whole world sort of felt the tragedy and one of my friends here called Lipa Yisroel. Lipa Yisroel is a nephew of Reb Chaim Kanievsky and the grandson of Reb Elyashiv, and he prints writings for Reb Chaim. So Reb Chaim had a siddur, which has his mefarshim, which had the halachas. It's a very, very nice. In Israel, it's a bestseller. It's not translated into English, so in America, it's not quite the same. And they wanted to do a sort of a pocket siddur, more for the guys who put it in their tefillin bag, and that's what they did. And before that, they felt that a letter of nechama from somebody in Eretz Yisrael would give us a lot of chizuk. So they thought of it, and they thought that Rabbi Silberstein, and he wrote a letter to us, which is in the siddur. And then, believe it or not, and this blew us away, is that when they decided to do the smallest siddur, Reb Chaim named it, and he named it Mishkanosecha Yisroel. Yisroel, for Yisroel, and Mishkanosecha is the gematria of Elisheva Basya, plus the 10 letters of her name. No one else could come up with that except Reb Chaim, and so that every time anyone is using the siddur, and it's used a lot in Eretz Yisrael, it gives us that nechama, and in the Hakdamah it explains how it was named and who Elisheva and Yisroel were. It gives us a lot of love, a lot of chizuk.
It's remarkable.
It's really special. Something that I can't help but notice is that both of you, your families, which have gone through really an awful event, but you turned around and did something for the klal, not necessarily something for your family. You did something that's going to help others. Can you just explain that thought process? For you, it's trying to get more shidduchim for everyone else, for everyone else's kids, and for you, it's helping those Kallahs. What goes into that thought process?
I mean, the biggest nachas ruach. I think Joel feels the same way. Well, Rav Moshe Tuvia Leaf, when he spoke at the 10K event, the first year after we started it, he wondered out loud. He says, it's very strange. He says, you would think people who lost children of Chas and Kal, the last thing in the world they want to do is make it in a wedding hall and make it on this, make a project for Chas and Kals.
Yeah.
But Misad Sheni, the truth of the matter is, the only thing that could bring me nechama for the Chas and Kal that I lost is to see a zillion more Chas and Kalas.
Mm-hmm.
A zillion more. Not 10,000, a zillion. You know what I mean? As many as we need.
The domain was taken, a zillion.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
Could be.
Tried.
But
10 zillion.
10K is easier to spell.
And Rav Dessa talks about it. Where's the real hana, the nachas ruach from taking? It's from giving. But here it's more than that. We both understand it's a simon min hashamayim of a chas and kal taken. Act on it. Do something that could bring simcha to chas and kalas, to kalas. Like what Joel's doing. That's really the point of it. That something good and great should come out of it.
Yeah.
Segueing from the word simcha, I thought about it and I said, why is there so much simcha when a chassan and kallah when they get engaged? Well, so much, it's overwhelming, right? Everyone is just so overwhelmed with joy. And I thought about it and I said, 2 times that Chazal or say that there's a great simcha. One is when you find a lost object. Shavas Aveda is a big simcha. And when you hataras sveikus, when you have a doubt about something and it gets resolved. Something gets resolved, not exactly the way you want, but something gets resolved. Those are the 2 times that you have simcha, great simcha. I said, you know what? Think about it. The Shavas Aveda would say that there's 40 days before the Baskal says so-and-so is going to marry so-and-so. But we didn't hear the name. That's the problem. So for the rest of our life, until we get engaged, we're trying to find that other person. And also, we're not sure, a suffix, who we're going to marry. So both of them happen at the same time. Number one, the doubt of who I'm going to marry. Here's my bashert. And the name of the ploni is revealed to me now, because now I'm engaged to a bashert. So both of those of sources of simcha happen at the exact same time when someone gets engaged. And that to me meant that that's a way to that's why there's so much simcha when you have a chassan and kallah get engaged, 10K bat Yisroel, and keep the kallah happy through the chasana.
As someone who's listening or watching this and seeing both of you a few years later, smiles on your face, living life, maybe the question that they would have, and it's going through me to you, is, are you angry? Do you have tainas on the Eibusher for taking away kids?
It's out of Shiva. So I said to someone, I said, and Tati gave me every bracha in my life. gave me my wonderful wife, gave me my wonderful children, wonderful parents, every bracha I have in my life. Did I ever stop and say, listen, I'd like to know a cheshbon, why is it coming to me to have all these brachas? Could you please, I zipped it up and said, Baruch Hashem, thank you, I'm so appreciative. So when Tati does what he has to do, I'm going to start asking questions, having tightness. Be a chutzpah. I mean, I understand, and it's a very, you're saying something because I just heard a Ma'aseh Nebuch somewhere where someone lost a child, and it was a very precocious, very wonderful child. That's the joke we have always, like Hashem takes always the best. Yeah. But, and he lost himself. He says, I'm angry at you, Hashem. My wife and I looked at each other. We understand that. I'm not judgmental. It's lose the most sweetest kid like that. But Misad Sheni, how do you come to this level of understanding this, that Hashem had to do it, and it's l'toivoscha.
Mm-hmm.
It's l'toivoscha. What? It's l'toivoscha. And when we were walking out of the Levaya from Darchei Torah, and Yisroel Kaplan said something that was so simple and so profound. She said, this is the test we've been preparing for our whole lives.
Your wife said that.
And I said, yeah. But I said, that's so emes. That is so emes. That this is the Nisayan we're preparing for our whole lives. And hopefully we'll be prepared if this Rahman or anything like that happens. But
it's not like we don't miss them. It's not like we're
right.
Okay, you took them and that we miss them terribly all the time. At a drop of a word, I start to cry, as you saw. But it's for our benefit. However we understand that.
And when I was sitting Shiva for Ari, so my Rebbe, the Mashgiach, Rav Dan Segel, was in America. And he came to be Menachem Avel. And he invited us that after we get it from Shiva, we want to come to him in Borough Park. He'll make some time. He'll talk to us. So I went there with Yisroel and with my youngest son, Salanga Yarn, Ephraim Mordechai, and we went to the Mashgiach. And we were talking there. And then he said something to me that changed my life.
Mm-hmm.
He asked me, he says, in the morning by Shachris, you make the bracha She'asali Kol Sarki. Hashem provides me with all my needs. I say, yeah, Vada. He says, Dost haste Eichit Kol Sarki. This that transpired by you, that Hashem just did to you, is also Kol Sarki. This is what you needed. Can you imagine? And it just, a light bulb went on. I said, yes, that's exactly Pshat over here. Hashem knows what's best for me. Hashem loves me. Is he trying to punish me? I'm not saying I'm a saint. I didn't deserve that type of punishment. Elamai, in my sojourn through this world, as I go through this life, Hashem knows what my potentials are, and this is a necessary component in my potential to climb the ladder of Ruchnius, and I'm Makabel. And therefore, 2 years later, when the terrible tragedy happened with Yisroel and Elisheva, my reaction was just like, in my head, I heard the Mashgiach's voice saying, Sha'asali Kol Sarki. I said, wow. It's like...
Only a great person could accept that.
So Mashgiach would have told you, you would have been able to.
Listen,
you hear it from the Mashgiach. That might be the chilik. When you hear from a tzaddik Yisrael Olam, you take it to the bank.
Yeah, it's evident that I'm sitting in front of two extremely special people, and you, two amazing families. There's no words. You had mentioned before there are people who go through tragedies and to no fault they break down, but
it's normal.
It's natural.
It says ahava mekalkeles es ashura. Your ahava for your child, it disrupts your whole. You don't know how to respond to it. How could it be? I remember sitting at Shiva in the beginning with Ari, and I was saying to myself, "This is surreal. This is not happening. It can't be. This is a nightmare. It's a bad dream." And he's going to walk through the door. I'm gonna wake up and this was a bad nightmare. And when we go, when I knock them over other people, I tell them, then they shake their heads because that is really what you say. You can't wrap your head around it. It's just, so we can understand very well, normal reaction like that. You have to strengthen yourself beforehand in your emunah so you could be able to deal with this.
It's wild. Is there a resentment at all towards the people who did this?
Yes and no. We know that they were the tools only of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but they were involved in a terrible thing.
Yeah.
And they're both in jail now. The one who pled guilty will be out maybe in a year or so. And the other one is there for 25 years.
No, they're 18, right?
Yeah, but at least 18.
Yeah.
At least 18. And they both were dangerous to society. And that's what we said. It's not a question of vengeance, or it's you have to protect society from them, because it wasn't their first or second offense. Neither of them. So therefore, they're in a place that will protect us. Yeah.
To me, as I'm familiar with all these details, and it's like, to me, it's, as an outsider, it's like so frustrating. These people should have been in jail years ago, and this maybe could have, but just not how the world works.
They were in jail, but they weren't in jail long enough to avoid this. And
they should have got an MTA card. And
the truth of the matter is, the Nassau County District Attorney spent a lot of resources to reconstruct, and the police department reconstructing the accident with expert witnesses, and they spent a lot of time. And we were very fortunate in that sense that they took it seriously, and they went to the nth degree to make sure that they were put away, and we have to be thankful for that.
What do you have anything to say about, I guess, how it was, Baruch Ber, about how he, handled the situation?
I'll tell you, I could never thank Baruch Ber enough. He knows that. They did two things against the halacha, and that is when Avel's not supposed to get up. We had great Rabbanim come, and we didn't get up and they understood it. When Baruch Ber came, Menachem Avel, I quieted everybody, and I said, no, I shouldn't be doing this, but please, everybody stand to give honor to Baruch Ber Bender for what he did. He saved us that day. What would we have done? We would have been so completely lost in terms of finding them and avoiding any kind of delay in the gvura. He just took care of everything. And the truth of the matter is, when his wife came, she went home. She cut her vacation short also. I did the same thing. But I could never thank him enough. The Kaplans can never thank him enough.
I want to ask you both one final question. Mirz Hashem, it should be in a minute from now. The Mashiach comes, and we're all reunited with those who are no longer here right now. What's the thing that you're gonna tell Elisheva, that you're gonna tell Yisroel? The first thing that you're gonna tell them, that when you greet them,
we're gonna make a wedding. We're gonna make a wedding.
And make a wedding for them.
Yeah. Except that Mashiach will be Masada Kedushin.
I don't know if Lakewood has a hall big enough for that wedding.
Because that's Yisroel. That's Yisroel, but a Baya Shlishi Beis Hashem.
I mean, you're in a lot of tables.
It may not be a that kind of wedding.
No.
Yes,
I
felt also just that jumping back to 10K for a minute. We are here in the Olam Asiyah. We can do what we can do, but we're fortunate that upstairs by the Kisei HaKavod, Elisheva and Yisroel are there. And as we make these suggestions down here, we have advocates for us upstairs.
Yeah, pulling strings.
And saying, Rabbeinu Shalom, look, your children are helping each other. They're doing down there. give your stamp of bracha on the shidduch. And I have letters that we read the stories. They say, when I thought of shidduch to do it with 10K Bat Yisrael, Lili Nishmasam, I saw tremendous siyata d'shmaya. It went smoothly,
Yeah.
So like, it's we will reminisce together.
Yes.
About all the gewaldige things they did for us while they were upstairs, and that we did for them while we were down here. We were able to do.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm going to put the links, obviously, to 10K Bat Yisrael and Yisroel Elisheva in the description of this episode. People can click it and go there. I really hope I'm invited to this wedding that Amir Hashem is going to take place.
All Kallah Yisrael.
Yeah, all Kallah Yisrael. Amazing. Very much looking forward. By the time this airs, we should all be on the way.
Amen.
That's Hashem.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Meaningful People podcast. Of course, we'll be back with more content coming your way. But please do us a favor, make sure to like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. It helps more people like you find our content, which maybe they'll get inspired from it and do good mitzvahs. So how cool would that be if that goes to your spiritual bank account, huh? How about that? And of course, 10K Bat Yisrael, Simchas Elisheva. These are organizations that were started by these families, the Levin family and the Kaplan family. You support those organizations. They do incredible work. 10K Bat Yisrael in terms of shidduchim, and Simchas Elisheva for Kallahs getting ready for their weddings. Keep the legacy of Elisheva and Yisroel alive. Please support them. And of course, a big thank you to the Kaplan family, the Levin family, for really being vulnerable and opening up and coming on the podcast and telling their story. Obviously, the hope is that people gain chizuk, inspiration from their story and get closer to Hashem from it. So thank you so much for listening. I very much look forward to seeing your comments here on YouTube. I personally reply to each of them. I go through them. I go through the reviews on Apple as well. So thank you everyone who leaves them. And of course, you can sign up to Meaningful Minute on WhatsApp. We have so much content, clips, videos from these episodes, plus a lot more. The link is in the description and the show notes of this episode. Hit that link, and I think you will really enjoy that. Have an amazing Yontif, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye. Hope you enjoyed this video from Meaningful Minute. We have so much more content for you. You may like this. You may like this. Take your pick. Let us know what you think.